Well, good evening, everybody. I say evening because we're doing a little moonlight in here. I've been so busy working on that trencher project that I haven't been getting my other work done. So I've got a couple of cylinders here. I can't remember. I think I mentioned these in another video. Anyway, these are Cat skid steer tilt cylinders. The eye is all wallered out in them. Cat decided it was a good idea to run a pin straight on an eye, just junk engineering. So apparently they've got an updated version now that uses this bushing, and for a mere 800 bucks they'll sell you a new rod and eye setup. So anyways, customer got in touch with me and wanted to know if I could bore these. Thankfully they didn't run them too terribly far, so there's enough meat in there to just bore. It's pretty thick bushing. And so I know I don't discuss a lot of dollars and cents with you, and it's because everybody's a little bit reluctant to get caught on camera saying how much they charge. But I thought I'd discuss with you a minute where I'm actually at on this project. So I told them that I figured I could bore both of these. It's mostly in setup, right? I got to get set up, bore it out, and press these in. I told them minimum of $300, not to exceed 500 bucks. So here's the method to the madness behind it. On shop work like this right now, I'm generally trying to shoot for about 120 bucks an hour. Now, I hear some of you old school machinists gasping when I say that. My dad's shop rate was 40 bucks an hour right up until the day he retired, and that wasn't that long ago. But the world has changed. It costs a lot of money to buy machines like this, and then in my instance, I might not have a lot of money in the machines. We got just huge amounts of time in it. Like that Mastiff 21-inch, Colchester Mastiff 21-inch we just brought back. Paid $3,500 bucks for that thing. Another $1,500 for the parts lay. So I got $5,000 tied up in that thing. And spent 2 days and a bunch of fuel going down and getting it. And then I'm going to have, oh my goodness, by the time I get it set up, leveled, fixed, I'll bet you I have another solid 3 days in it. I mean, it's hard to even estimate. If I even start keeping track of my time at all, it's not, I wouldn't be out of reason to say I might have $10,000 worth of time and material and money into that lathe by the time it's set up. So I realize, even in this area, normal shop rate, if you just hire a machine shop, and it's a normal, say, small-scale production shop, I think you can get work done for about 85 bucks an hour. I think it's pretty normal in our area. Here's the thing. Those shops don't even want to touch a project like this. They aren't set up for weird one-off, and that's where, yes, I'm charging a bit of a premium when I'm at 120 bucks an hour. I'm admittedly pretty high relative to the machine shop market in my area, but I'm not a machine shop. I'm a blacksmith shop, I guess is what I would call myself. And I'm basically charging for the privilege of them showing up whenever they want to drop something like this off, and me being here and me having this weird collection of tools that mostly sits, right? Like the average machine shop that's busy running a production job is not going to shut their production job down to put this thing on the machine, because it's busy making money and clicking away at 85 bucks an hour, and it's busy doing work. My machine is sitting here doing nothing until somebody calls with a project like this for us. So just to compare those, so like this, okay, I'm telling a minimum of 300, max of 500. It's because I'm figuring it's going to take me somewheres between, say, 3 and 5 hours to do this job. By the time I set up, bore it, set the other one up, bore it, tear it down, 3 to 5 hours total. And I'm hoping on the bottom end of that, by the way, when I just don't like shocking people. I'm honestly hoping we're somewhere down in the $300 range. That's what I'm shooting for on this thing, is that. But I like to give people a worst case scenario number. So anyways, that just gives you some idea of the mental process. And then I know I've had a lot of people, they haven't asked me, but I see this discussion comes a lot on the forums. So what do I charge for field rate? I definitely charge more when I go in the field. Right now, depending on how old of a customer they are, how long I've known them, how well I like them, field rate, when I go out line boring and I'm going to go set up on somebody's job and do it, I unless it's really a friends and family situation, I don't go out there for less than about 130 an hour right now. And that's pretty rare. Usually, if it's an established customer, 140 an hour. If it's a new customer and I'm busier than I want to be, it's generally 150. Like that's really where I'm at on shop rate right now. And basically, I'm discounting anybody that I've done work for and like working for in the past. But and then just for frame of reference, when I go line boring and I pull out of here with a truck, a trailer, and a load of tools, my current estimate is that it'd cost you $150,000 to tool up the portable welder, the Climax boring rig, my home built boring rig, the boring bars, the tools. Like if that whole truck burned to the ground tomorrow, it'd cost me, I figure, 150 grand to tool back up to do that. So, that is actually more of a bargain, relatively speaking, than me at my shop at 120 an hour is, because the tooling to do that portable line boring welding work is so specialized, it's just not that much of it out there. So anyways, I just thought you guys might find that interesting, and I'll be curious to hear some feedback. Like, if there's any of you guys that are watching that do this kind of work, I am curious, like, what does it cost in your region? I know nobody ever wants to discuss it because they're all paranoid that they're either going to be the most expensive guy in town or the least expensive guy, and I just got to the point where I realized, like, this is what it takes to keep my doors open and keep me here and keep me doing this. And I've got a customer base. I honestly, just give you an example, I had one of my customers here a couple months ago asked me if I would show up sooner. Like, I'm so busy that it was taking me 2 weeks to get there. They said if I would just, they said I could charge twice as much if I would just show up sooner. Well, I'm not that kind of guy. I try to make sure that I'm being fair to everybody. I try not to just run where the money is. I try to make my decisions based on who needs the help, who's in the biggest pinch. And so I laughed and said, no, that wouldn't get me there faster if they offered to pay me twice as much, that I would get there as soon as I reasonably could. But anyway, so I'm just curious, for those of you that are out there, I'd be really interested, what is the going rate for the portable boring and welding work, and then, say this kind of stuff, weird one-off, what's that cost in your area? Because I am curious about it. So anyway, let's get set up on this thing and see if we can get her bored out. I told him I'd drop this off in the morning. I originally told him I'd have it this morning, and then I had to get in touch with him because we spent way longer working on that. I was actually going to stay last night and do this, but I was exhausted after we spent all afternoon getting that Lawson going, so I called and begged off and told him to give me another day, and they said that was all right. So anyway, that's what we're getting ready to do, is punch this thing out. So I'll bring you guys along for the journey. I just made an unpleasant discovery. They've hardened that dang thing. That really screws with my plans here. The case hardened the bore. That's a serious problem. Alright, so all kinds of developments here. So as I think I mentioned there, I discovered that this bore is seriously case hardened. Junk Caterpillar throwaway parts. But anyways, I think I can cut it with carbide, but what I've discovered, I centered up on the outside of the eye, and I'm suspicious now from how far off center I am relative to the bore that they didn't actually center on the eye. The reason I did that is because the bore is really bad worn, but there's a grease groove inside of there, and it's a pretty wide one, and the wear hasn't reached the depth of the grease groove, so I'm going to try reaching in there with my coaxial indicator and actually indicating this bore end off from that grease groove to see if I can figure out where the center line of it is supposed to be. So I'm going to put you over to high-speed mode again and let you guys watch that, and then we'll see what I come up with. Alright, so my theory was correct. The OD of that boss is not concentric with the bore. It was about 85 thousandths off center, so I'm glad I double checked that. It just didn't feel right, didn't look right. I was so far off from line with the hole that even with the wear it had in it, it just didn't feel kosher. So anyway, now I'm lined up with the actual bore. We're going to try taking a cut through there and see if we can peel through that hard stuff. Alright, we're going to try something that's a little bit risky. I'm going to see if we can anneal this thing a bit. I suspect that this bore is induction hardened because of the fact that no other part of this thing is hard. I'm hoping that means it wasn't carburized and it was just strictly induction hardened flint. So if that theory is true, I should be able to soften it up just by taking it to a dull red heat and letting it cool off. Okay, so we've definitely had a productive impact on it. Substantially softer than it was before. Now I'm excited. We might get somewhere tonight. Okay, so time to get a tool in here. So you can see this grease groove I was talking about in here. It's a real deep one. And so even though this is worn that direction a lot, it hadn't got to the bottom of the groove. And that was a godsend to me because it gave me a reference point. Because what it turns out is that this hole is offsetting the eye by, like say, about 85 thousandths that direction. And honestly, if I hadn't had that grease groove to go off from, I would have just had to taken a guess at it. I'm not sure what I would have done because my spidey sense was screaming at me that there was no way it was wore that far off center. So I think I'd have probably compromised, fudged it over a bit, but I probably still wouldn't have ended up where I needed really, where it originally was if it hadn't been for that grease groove to go off from, because that was definitive. Anyway, she's cutting nice. I think I'm going to go get my tool depth gauge out of my line boring trailer so we can start setting tool depth, and we're going to get this baby carved out tonight. Alright, I got about 200 thousandths to go to finish dimension. So right now I'm taking 50 thou on a side, which is a pretty healthy cut for a 1/4 inch tool. Seems to be eating it nice. I just sharpened my tool, so you can see we're not churning chips blue. When I got out of the hole last time, it was pretty dull and it was making those. So anyways, we're cutting our way through there. It's looking good. So about one more roughing pass and then hopefully a finish pass, and we'll be ready to switch to the other cylinder, which is still sitting here cooling off. Yeah, she's coming down in temperature. She'll be cool enough to set up once I'm done with this one. Anyways, I'm very pleased. We're actually winning. I was feeling a little ugly about this. And here's the problem, is some steel, depending on what they made it out of and how they treated it, heating it up doesn't help. It might make the situation worse. And it was technically cuttable before, but really at the ragged edge, and you needed a lot stiffer tooling than what I had. I'd have been pecking my way through here doing 10 thou at a pass if I'd have had to have dealt with it the way that it was before I got it softened up a bit. So definitely very, very happy that it worked out to anneal that a bit. But anyways, we're cooking along. We're gonna get this thing punched out tonight. I hurt my tool a bit by going up and hitting it when it was hard, but I think it's still usable. So on the next one, I'm going to go back to my original idea and see if I can take most of the material out with that old end mill and save myself a whole bunch of boring time, because that'll knock her to within about 50 thou of finished dimension in one pass. Anyway, we're winning. Alright, we're on finished pass here. 2.5 thou on a side coming out of there right now. And of course, now that we're in light cut, she wants to start singing at me. That's annoying. It's not too bad. Chirps once in a while. Anyway, she's cutting. Should be the last pass, and then we're ready to switch to the other rod. Alright, so I'm going to get up here close. I touched off by hand just to make sure that it didn't seem like anything ugly was going to happen. And now we're going to try kicking into power feed and see what this old girl says. Hopefully a big resounding yes. That's a lot nicer than last time I tried this. I just got a high-pitched squeal and started wiping out my tool last time before we did some annealing. So, moral of the story, everybody. Let's check, make sure the thing you're about to try and bore ain't rock hard before you go cruising in there. It's a beautiful sight. This is about an hour's worth of boring getting done all in one pass with it going through there like that. So I might get home by midnight at this rate instead of 2 a.m. Cutting very nicely. Just about to the oil groove here. Breaking through into the oil groove now. I think it's still going to be cutting even in there because this cutter I think is large enough diameter that it'll take the oil groove right out in this pass. It's going to be nip and tuck on whether I can get all the way through there before I bottom out on my holder. If I have to shave a little bit out with the boring head, that isn't near as bad as removing all of this stock is though, so. I need to get more ratty old end mills like this thing just for doing this type of thing with. Alright everybody, battery was charging up a bit on this thing so I didn't show it, but I've honed this out to finish size. I had a little on the tight side, but I was just in there, what is this, the JN? I don't remember anymore. I got all these different Sun and Hones, but anyway. I remember where it says on it, but anyway. I was in there with that, got her honed out. You can see nice smooth finish in there now. I'm intentionally fitting this a bit on the tight side. The factory set this up with 3 thou press. I'm giving her 5. So this thing is fairly thin down in here and I want it to really get a good squeeze on it. I have never seen the factory rod that comes with this bushing, but my suspicion is they leave more meat in it than they did on this one that they didn't tend to have bored. So put a little more squish because I think this is going to stretch quite a bit when I put her in there. So anyways, we're going to set up and press this thing in and see how she looks. I got to come up with kind of spacer to shove that down the rest of the way. Perfect. This is the reason you keep all kinds of weird junk around your hydraulic press. This is some old garbage bushing out of something else that just so happens to be a little bit smaller than the bushing I'm shoving in. So, perfect candidate for sending this thing on home. A little bit more. It's been a great press. Took that in trade for line boring job actually I did on an old John Deere excavator. It wasn't working at the time. I got her straightened out. 75 tons. It's pretty rare that it says no when, or that anything says no to it. Put it that way. All right. Well, back this up. Go find a pin and make sure we haven't squished her too much. It's the downside to exceeding the factory press is you can squeeze them, but yeah, that's what I thought. This is such a heavy bushing and it's going into such a relatively thin part that even with an extra 2 thou press bit on it, she's still rattling. So, all right, that one is done. Let's go get the other one finished so I can go home. It's about 10:30 at night right now, just in case we're all wondering. And I would like to get to bed sometime before tomorrow. Well, this should be the finished pass on the last one, so we'll take a final measurement, and unless I see something crazy, this is going to get pulled out of here, honed out 1 thou or 2 to give it a nice finish, and get a bushing stomped in, and hopefully by about 11 o'clock tonight, we'll be done and headed home. Alright everybody, I don't think I'll video anymore after this because you've already seen me stomp a bushing in. You can see we're getting a pretty nice finish. It's about 2 thou undersize yet, and I'm going to go do the same thing I did with the last one, where hone the last couple thou out, give it a nice smooth finish. That helps them to not gall up as easy. If I just press them, even with a nice machine finish, it's never as nice as a hone job. Bushings slip in better when I'm squishing them in tighter than the factory intended them to be. So anyway, and I should mention, the point of that is just to try and keep this from coming loose on the customer. I almost always err on the side of more press rather than less, and just get a lot less callbacks and a lot less bushings coming loose. So anyways, this is going to be a wrap for tonight, and we'll show you guys the next project. This has been quite an adventure, though. Alright, so I decided I had to shoot a little more video after my discussion about prices and costs. So, I think I originally told you, I told the guys that I would do this. I quoted it with a range, said it wouldn't be less than 300, wouldn't be over 500. Well, this is where this kind of stuff, I mean, obviously I'm not going to go broke because of it, but you don't want to always make out the way you think you might ought to. So this thing, the pair of these, right now I've got a good solid 5 hours into. Actually, if I include the cleanup time, because, you know, I've got a heck of a mess over there, tools all over, but it's 11 o'clock at night, I'm not going to screw that. if I include the cleanup time and then the sitting around thinking, scratching my head time to start with, it's going to be more like 6 hours. So as you can see, when I'm, estimating, if you want to call it that, and I estimate trying to calculate on that 120 an hour, if I come in, and I had 3 hours in it, well, I'd have charged them $350 and we'd have got it done. As it is, we're going to be right up there at that 500, and I didn't do the math, but I'll be making $80 an hour, but $80 an hour for a lot of grueling work, I guess how I'll put it. So I'm not complaining. I'm happy to do the job. It was kind of an interesting one. I enjoyed figuring it out and getting, obviously that was really nice that softened up. This job, if I had not been able to soften that, I don't even know, because I'd have been like 10 thou pass. This second one went way faster because I was able to punch on through there with that end mill. If I'd have had to go into a carbide, tearing carbide up, carving my way through, I wouldn't be shocked if that turned into an 8 to 10 hour job. So anyway, that's a wrap, guys. We're going to drop this off to the customer in the morning and get on to the next one.